Every town has a ghost story that's been passed down through the generations. But what if those legends were true? My name is Miranda Young, and I'm the Ghost Biker. Hey, everybody. Happy Thursday night. We are back here at the Ghost Biker Garage, and I am your host, the Ghost Biker, and we're finally here on it's kind of spooky outside now with we've got some rain coming in. The temperatures are dropping a little bit, and the leaves are starting to change here in East Tennessee. So just in time, getting in the mood here for spooky season and getting in the mood for season 7 of Ghost Biker Explorations, which hopefully we're going to have we're going to be releasing the trailer and the promos on that here very, very soon. But that first episode is going to air live, and that is going to drop at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the first Tuesday of October. So we'll have a little bit more about that, but we are definitely gearing up and getting very, very excited about the season premiere of season 7. Can't hardly believe that's here already. Just want to say hello to folks over here in the chat room. We did not have a Jailhouse Informant podcast earlier today because for the past week, my business partner, Christy, and we have been working just nonstop over at the historic First National Bank building, getting that open. And I can officially say that today we opened the doors, and we've not quite started the guided tours just yet, but we did a soft opening of the doors there at the First National Bank building. And so you purchase your tickets there. We got the gift shop set up. We've got the ticket booth and everything set up there, and we're working on new exhibits. I can honestly say at this point, we have about 10 new exhibits that we are officially working on at this point in time over at the historic Scott County Jail and going back and forth. So we'll be making that announcement, probably be releasing a video about that. I'm hoping, fingers crossed, tomorrow, and probably be doing our guided tours starting there at the First National Bank building, going over to the jail this weekend. And then the next paranormal team that the next paranormal team that will be investigating at the jail will be the first one to be there to get access to the new rooms that we have opened up there. So a lot of really cool and exciting things that have been going on. So I know some of you all have messaged me, and some of you all have noticed my absence the last little bit, but that is because we have literally been working day and night over there to get things ready and get that open. So it's quite the task with the two of us. And so please be patient with me if you are waiting for me to send you a message. So just saying hello to the folks over here in the chat room. Hello to Mr. Bob Burnell. Thank you so much for tuning in. Sonia Thompson, can't thank you enough for your help over the last 2 days, helping us to get moved in there to the bank building there. You've been quite the help. So really, really appreciate that. Hello to Nancy Weems. Hope you're doing well. Good evening all the way over there in Arizona to Miss Janet. Hope you're doing well. Mary Ann, wonderful video that you put out yesterday as a tribute on 9/11. It was great to see that. Jolly Jeffers Goins, hello. How are you doing? James Brady, I hope you're doing well all the way there in South Carolina. And yeah, I know you guys are probably still pretty hot out there in Arizona. We're comfortable. I think we're about 77, 78 degrees right now. So we're really thankful for that. Daryl Paulette there with Clover Hill Village. I know that if you've not checked out Clover Hill Village, we did a paranormal investigation there last year, and it was amazing. So, definitely go check that out and go investigate. Jackie Henley, I hope you're doing well. Thank you so much. Pat Fitzgerald, Jim Cody, hello. Again, anyone, if you have any questions tonight for myself or for my guest, if you will, please make sure to put those in all caps, and we'll make sure to get to those. Just want to take the time to mention a few more things before we get to tonight's guest. If you missed last week's episode with Mr. Joseph Eskew, we had a great episode. And if you've tried to watch that on the channel, for some reason, Facebook had some kind of weird, wonky thing going on with the live last week. I think it was because we were talking about some ufology as well as some aliens. Seems like whenever I talk about those topics, things go kind of weird here. So I'm going to test that theory on a couple shows that we've got coming up to see if it does the same thing. But if you want to rewatch that episode, you're definitely going to want to, because we talked about a lot of interesting things. Joe has some amazing theories, and just a very, very, very brilliant man, with in regards to his background, his scientific background and engineering, talking about water memory and his theories with that and the paranormal. If you want to watch that, go over to the YouTube page, Ghost Biker Explorations. We will be sharing that on the page again, because again, for some reason, Facebook won't let us replay that video, and I'm not quite sure why that's the case. It showed us live for like 14 hours last week. It was really weird. So it was like after the live ended, it never ended on Facebook. It just kept streaming, and then it ended saying it was lacking a signal, which again, it was really odd. So I'm not sure if anyone else had any issues with that, but I know our channel did. They're on Facebook alone, but YouTube, LinkedIn, Mix 104.1, all of that seemed to do just fine. So, so go back, check out that show, and let me know your thoughts. Joe's wanting to come back, and we're gonna hit him with a couple other topics here in the future. So just reach out to us and let us know. Yeah, James, I think that is the case. Anyways, just want to share this right quick before we get to tonight's guest. We've got a lot of interesting things going on at the historic Scott County Jail, as well as historic Rugby. We've got our calendar open here, and we've got it completely loaded with flashlight tours, our Ghosts of the Past Haunted History Walk at the historic Scott County Jail. And then, of course, walks and lantern tours there at historic Rugby After Dark. We offer 2 different tours there, and we've got dates open pretty much every weekend through the month of September as well as October. We do these tours year round, but we're trying to load it up extra heavy here during the spooky months. So, go on there, go onto our website, historyhighwayshaunts.com. Choose your adventure, whether you want to do a tour of the jail or historic Rugby, and then go pick your date. We got something for everybody here, and hopefully, if there's not a date that you're not in, that you're in town, if there's a conflict or whatever, please reach out. We've got the phone numbers on the bottom of the poster there. And if you've got a large group, we can do special accommodations. So yeah, hope you'll check that out. We will be posting those on the page as well. So historic Scott County Jail, historic Rugby After Dark. Go on there, check those out, and book one of those tours. Also, we do have guided ghost hunts as well throughout the entire month. I know we've got a group coming tomorrow night, taking advantage of Friday the 13th. And so we're going to be doing a guided ghost hunt with these 2 ladies. They're doing a best friends trip. So we love it whenever people choose to include us in their events. So, all right. So enough about that. You know how to find us. You know where we're at on our website there. Just going to pop that up on the screen. You can find all the information. But I want to go ahead and get to tonight's guest, because I know she is an extremely busy lady, and she has agreed to come on. And we're going to be talking about storytelling, folklore, Tennessee in specific. And, I'm just going to let her introduce herself and her background, because, like I said, I'm really honored to have met her in person a few weeks ago. So, so if you will, please help me in welcoming Miss Belle Stuart. Hey, Belle.
Hey, everybody.
Hey, thank you so much for coming on here. I know you're kind of in an interesting location there, because kind of stepped away from something special that you're working on just to do the interview. So thank you so
I
much.
am. I don't generally hang out in a dance studio for your folks that have joined us tonight, but I am the festival show producer this year for the long-running Bell Witch Fall Festival in Adams, Tennessee. And we are in the thick of smoke rehearsals, and that is a very much intentional pun there. We're about to start rehearsals for our other original production by David Alford, Spirit, next week. And our festival kicks off on September 22nd with a free community event called Red River Tales that they do every year, is just kind of more of a storytelling type of a daytime production. Our plays are at nighttime, and it's pretty unique in that there aren't very many opportunities, I feel like, to experience entertainment that's got a historical context, and be literally right where those events happened. And
Yes.
I mean, in relation to both, the history of the Night Riders and the Black Patch Tobacco Wars in Robertson County in southern Kentucky of the early 1900s. Many of those locations are so close to where we are performing with the pavilion. And for Spirit itself, we are on part of what used to be the old Bell Farm. And
Wow.
the original Bell home that stood on that property, is just sight distance through the trees from where you're watching this production about those events. And that's pretty fantastic. I mean, that's not something you can say you can experience all the time. And we do this every year in Adams, the entire month of October, usually the last weekend of September. Pretty much, it's a 5-week run of multiple shows, and it's always been near and dear to my heart. I've been going down since the very first production of Spirit years ago, and I'm really happy to be part of that team this year, and to be able to bring my love of that local history to everyone. It's very special to me. I grew up just down the road myself. So the first book I ever read about paranormal disturbances probably was the Charles Bailey Bell Jr. book, The Bell Witch, A Mysterious Spirit. And then I got, later on read the Ingram book, and have since read pretty much everything ever published. And actually did the cover art for Pat Fitzhugh's book, Bell Witch, The Full Account, back in the early 2000s. And he and I have done some Bell Witch related things together over the years, and have definitely spent way too much time discussing both the fact and the folklore, surrounding it. So, but yeah, I mean, I specialize in heritage arts, and I am a storyteller and a folklorist. So while I do very much enjoy the paranormal element to a lot of these locations in story, I call myself the haunted tourist for a reason. I think that the evolution of how those stories begin and perpetuate throughout time, and a lot of that's was originally through oral tradition. And you've all played the game of telephone, where you start out with one thing, and then by the end of it, it's something entirely different. And so how those stories and how folklore evolves is something I think that's pretty special, and also so much a part of our experience, especially in Tennessee and the American South. So
Yes, absolutely. And I was so excited whenever I got to meet you there at Historic Rugby. You were part of an event there that was being held over the summer there, and
yeah,
we met on one of my tours, the one going down to the cemetery. And so when we got to spend a little bit of time talking, I knew I had to have you on the show because anytime I talk to anybody and, I say I'm from Tennessee, instantly the Bell Witch comes up.
Oh
And
yeah, I mean,
yeah,
I've been all over the world, and you say Tennessee, and you get three things: the Bell Witch, Dolly Parton, and Jack Daniel's whiskey.
that is so true. That is so true. That is absolutely true. Now, can you, for folks that maybe, live under a rock and aren't familiar with the Bell Witch story, could you share just a little bit of that for us so that kind of put it in context for people that might not know?
Yeah, absolutely. So the Bell Witch, as or the Bell Witch haunting, as I like to refer to it, took place primarily during the years of 1817 to 1821 in what is now present day Adams, Tennessee, previously known as the Red River community, and then later Adams Station as the railroad was moving through. And it's a really unique piece of haunted history, not just in relation to the South or Tennessee, but kind of worldwide. She as it referred to itself sometimes. She liked to call herself Kate on occasion. Um, Took responsibility and is directly attributed to the death of the patriarch of the family, John Bell Sr. And it's one of the only, if not the only, instance of that I am personally aware of in all of my stories and seeking out things about paranormal experiences and hauntings. So it's this took place in rural, I mean, it's still rural Tennessee. It's a farming community. It is a tobacco and corn, soybean farmland kind of place, and it's beautiful out there. It's a lot like rugby in that sense that you can get out of Nashville and there's not a lot of light pollution. It feels different. It's a slower pace of life. It's you know if you go down there more than once, people are going to know your name, and that's those kind of those kind of environments. To me, having grown up in a small town in Tennessee, that it's home,
Yes.
much as any place can be. But to put that into context, though, this spirit was, if you believe it's a spirit, and I will let you guys do a deep dive into the material and decide what you think for yourself. There is plenty of material out there for you to peruse, and a lot of varying degrees of paranormal theories, geological theories in relation to the Bell Witch Cave that was part of the original property in the Haunted Dell. A lot of people that are, very into things related to ley lines and possible portal situations and things like that. There's for any corner of the paranormally inclined person out there, there is something for you in the story of the Bell Witch. She primarily tormented the patriarch of the family, as I said, John Bell Sr., his daughter Elizabeth, who they called Betsy. And she also had a real distaste for Dean, who worked on the farm with the Bells. And a lot of those stories, that got handed down originally come from Dean and his
Okay.
experiences. And we're really excited to bring his part of that story back to Spirit this year in the festival. There is obviously, it was a time in American history where there were practices going on that we don't condone, and it's I feel like it is a very much a disservice to Dean as a brilliant storyteller, and he was at the time, as well as, one of the most respected uh, men with an axe in all of Robertson County. He was very skilled in a lot of different ways, and John Bell very much relied on him. And so some of the more fantastical stories you're going to encounter about the Bell Witch haunting relate to Dean's experiences personally. And she did heap a lot of abuse upon him, as well as a lot of other members in the community. This presence, there are a lot of different discussions about what was this phenomenon, and I'll let y'all decide that for yourself. I'm not here to make up your mind on that. But I can tell you it would be terrifying in modern times with all of our technology and the things that we are so kind of desensitized through in today's living. To have been in rural Tennessee, you're talking no electricity. No, your main form of transportation are horses and mules, and it is just, your community was based on your church home traditionally.
Yes.
This was also during the height of the Second Great Awakening spiritually in the United States, where Calvinism very much played a large part of that culture in the tent revival kind of era of Christianity, specifically in Tennessee. So, these were very God-fearing, hardworking, folks, and to be experiencing, physical abuse from unseen forces, relentless taunting, vocally, night and day. I mean, I can't even imagine. I can't even imagine how that would translate to today's times, but certainly for that era, it was. There was nothing like it. And, people did come from all over that caught wind to kind of find out what was going on with this story that they had heard, And there's a lot of, again, I urge you, please go check out some information. There are a lot of books. We at the festival, our story specifically is inspired from the M.V. Ingram book, which was one of the first full books published about the subject in the late 1800s. And a lot of those stories come from that source material. Pat Fitzhugh, again, has the book, The Bell Witch, the full account. I believe Rick Gregory has a book out as well. I think he's also done some presentations up in Rugby. You can go to the state archives and find material. You can go to the Robertson County archives and find material. You can do a deep dive on the internet and spend months probably sifting through everything. This story has inspired multiple movies, so many texts, in relation to books, in theater productions, bands. There's a band out of Seattle called the Bell Witch. There was a local band here in Nashville in the 80s called the Shakers, who had an album called Living in the Shadow of the Spirit, which was a really cool piece of musical work at the time. Very, traditional bluegrass and kind of Celtic influence on that album with, mandolin and guitar and traditional instrumentation. It is just, I won't tell you my age because I'm a Southern lady and we don't do that, but I am old enough, as evident by my hair, to have been around for a little bit. And I will tell you, I've literally been reading about the Bell Witch since I was able to read in the 70s. I am still not done. I will never be done. while the source material and what we can prove fact, through court documents and marriage records and death certificates and church documentation. Red River Church in Adams, they do still have a lot of those initial. Oh yeah, Pat's saying there was a heavy metal Merciful Fate who had a song called The Bell Witch. They sure did. One of my favorite musical acts, and I'm a little bit biased because he is my uncle. Mark Stewart did a wonderful song on his album Songs from the Corner Stage called When Katie Sings. It's about specifically about how she tormented the family, but also that she was known to have one of the most beautiful singing voices anyone in the community had heard. So this was not your typical poltergeist type of activity, to put that in perspective for people who aren't really versed in the story. This entity would have multiple voices sometimes. In fact, there was an entire witch family at one point of 5 very distinctive personalities that it used to communicate, that would argue amongst themselves even in the presence of others. She was known to have given word for word 2 church sermons that took place miles apart at the same time. So, and heaven forbid you were somebody in town who was not doing right. She was going to definitely call you out on it. Don't be slipping in anybody's back door at the dark of night. Don't be, drinking behind your barn. This spirit was going to tell your business to the entire community and make a ruckus about it. So, not just the Bell family, but any of the community that were involved with this family were terrified of this spirit, and for good reason. So, it's again, I can't even put into words just how life altering finding out about this story was for me personally, as a storyteller, as a local historian. It very much guided my path, whether I wanted it to or not at times, to what I'm doing today. And I'm proud of that. I'm proud of the work that I've done for over 30 years related to the Bell Witch. I've done numerous events all over the country. I've done lectures for universities and small groups. I've written a couple of original pieces of work myself about the material. It is just a very truly unique piece of Tennessee history that, as we said before, is a worldwide point of interest. It's not just a local campfire tale. This goes way beyond that.
No, and so where did your love of storytelling begin?
I'm pretty sure it was born into me. I come from a long line of storytellers, whether they called themselves that or not. I am part of a very musical family. That side of the family has been living in the South Cheatham and Burns. Oh, thank you, Hunter. She is on our committee and board for the Bell Witch Fall Festival, and we've been working together a lot. Yeah, my family cemetery is in Burns, Tennessee. We were there pre-Revolutionary War, and every generation of the Stuart family has had lots of musicians, lots of songwriters. My grandpa was a fiddler, just like his dad and grandpa before him. It's just kind of, I think it's a very cultural thing in Tennessee as well. Whether we're talking Memphis and Delta, or we're talking, up in the mountains and hollers in Appalachia, we are a culture that tells our stories. We tell it through sitting out on the front porch with an iced tea or a cold beer, if you do that sort of thing. Grandma, you didn't hear me say that. You do it in songs, you do it in prayers. If you go to a church sermon, it's storytelling. It is very much presentational and community building and collaborative. It's how we live. It's not just an act or a thing that we do. It literally is our lives. Which, my tie to rugby, a lot of that. I knew the history and had been wanting to get up to rugby for years. Before I met Kara Kemp, who her adult summer camp is how I came to know you this year.
Yep.
And Kara Kemp is a phenomenal storyteller, and I've been very blessed to participate in a couple of different productions of hers in the last few years since we met. And
Nice.
that activity during the summer is very much based around sharing those deep dive stories with the people that you connect with up there on the Cumberland Plateau. And so I think it's. I do bill myself as a professional storyteller and folklorist, and I've certainly put in the hours to claim that. But I know folks that have never stepped outside of Cheatham County that could spin yarns and entertain you for days. And they probably should get back to, doing something on their land, or, maybe working on their roof or whatever it was that they had going on before that. But they've always got time to talk to a neighbor or a stranger.
I tell you,
and welcome you and entertain you,
No, you're 100% right, because we experience it every day inside the jail there, and probably that's one of my most favorite things when I'm there, is to see people come in, because it's not just the locals, but people from all over, and especially in Tennessee, they come in and they've got a story to tell, whether it be a haunting experience that they've experienced, or just something supernatural or interesting. And it's funny because Christy, she's from Florida. And so which Central Florida, small, tight-knit community there that she's from. I think she's like fifth generation Ocala native. But it's interesting because she'll say, those Tennesseans, when y'all get together and when they come in, like, they'll just talk, and you'll know their story, you'll know all about them. And it's like that is such a true comment, because we do we will talk your head off, and can
2 in the
usually.
morning in our case, when we met.
Yes. Yes, because I think we stayed and talked at least probably an hour after the tour was over. And I absolutely love that. But it really is something that you do see to be kind of regional to the area. And she often mentions that.
Yeah. No, it is, I've met a lot of great storytellers in my travels over the years. And it's always so heartwarming to make those connections with people, and to hear their stories, and also you become a part of each other's stories, through those conversations and those experiences together. But it definitely, the level that occurs. We joke around these parts that my husband will say, if I'm at my parents' house, well, when are you heading home? I'm like, oh, well, I'm about to leave. Well, where are you at? Well, I'm in the kitchen. Well, why don't you call me when you're pulling out of the driveway? Because he knows that there will be the kitchen goodbye. There will be the out by the car goodbye. There will be that. Well, let me just tell you one more thing as I'm driving down the driveway. Goodbye. And it's going to be at least an hour and a half after I've texted him before I ever even get onto the main road. So I think that's just it's something we used to actually make fun of my grandmother for growing
Yes,
up.
same.
But and now that I am of the same age my grandmother was when I was a child, I find myself, oh my gosh, I've turned into Annie Mae. I'm doing the same thing. But I don't know. I try to read the room and see if people are falling asleep on me and know when to shut up. But I will talk to a wall if you'll stand there long enough. There's just no getting around it.
That's my best memories, though, is sitting on my grandma's porch, listening to her tell stories about, and I always said about the haints and boogers that she experienced here in East Tennessee. She was born in 1908, And so she always had some interesting stories. And it's kind of funny because just recently, there's a group of ladies that I meet with every month in the neighboring community there and they're involved with the Historical and Genealogical Society. And my grandma would share some stories about some witches that she came into contact with back at that time. And I won't go into the details of the stories because there were several different stories she told.
Yeah.
But, as a kid, listening to her tell these stories, because at the time I would have been either in, 10, 12 years old up until, my early 20s. And hearing her tell this, and she's in her 80s and 90s at the time, and I'm kind of thinking, is she and she had a very sharp memory, always had a sharp memory up until she passed. And it's kind of like, how much of this is embellished a little bit, with these witches? And, because you'd always hear the stories about, don't go into the woods after dark. And when we would leave her house and run to our house because she lived
Mhm.
across the field, it was like, don't tarry, just hurry as fast as you can and get home.
Yeah.
Don't look toward the woods. Well, when I met with these ladies, it they just happened to mention about these 3 witches, and we ended up stopping at one of the houses there as we were going back to a cemetery to do some genealogy research. And, the people who lived in that home that was renovating it knew of these witches as well, and these witches would have been at the same time whenever my grandma was a kid, or not a
Oh,
kid, but when
so
she was, yeah, younger. And so, that just gave validation and actually gave names to the ladies. They had come over from England, and I can remember standing there in awe whenever we were at the house hearing these stories and thinking, wow, these people have had similar experiences to what my grandmother used to share with me. And so she probably was not off base very much when she was telling these stories.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think there are some things that, growing up that you hear that you definitely are like, "Ah, Papa's pulling my leg on that,"
Yep.
or, Uncle so and so is just spinning a yarn, whatever. But yeah, the more you dig into your history and genealogy and a lot of the any of the local documentation you can find, and thankfully, because we did have a lot of people here in Tennessee that fought in the Revolutionary War.
Mhm.
We are very fortunate because of those land grants and things for
Yes.
those people, that we do actually have a lot more documentation than a lot of areas in the United States as far as genealogy goes. So, I know for a lot of us that live in this area that have traced back our families and things, it's helped out so much to
Mhm.
have that documentation. But yeah, there's always a grain of truth. Even in the
Mhm.
wildest story, and boy howdy is the Bell Witch one of the wildest stories you're ever going to hear about. And we can't prove it, but so James Brady is asking, do I have any personal haunted experience associated with the Bell Witch? Well, James, I can tell you this much. I try to come from a place of reason and a place of trying to find a reasonable doubt, and not always psyching myself out whenever I'm in any environment, whether we're talking Adams or some of the historical buildings I've done paranormal investigations and things in over the years. Um, and I have some things that have happened to me that I outright cannot explain to you. And I leave a lot of that up to people to interpret through their own lens. But I mean, I can tell you that I'm not here to convince anybody to believe. I know what I think personally, and I think that if you're interested in going down there and checking it out, there's some wonderful areas down. I mean, come down during the festival season for sure and see us,
Yeah.
because the entire town is kind of congregated down there for 5 weeks on those nights. And the Bell Witch Cave does a lot of tours, a lot of more tours and things than they normally do there during their regular summer season, during festival time. There is actually a historic tour going on this Saturday night at Collinsville in Clarksville, Tennessee, where Pat Fitzhugh will be doing a lecture on the Bell Witch, and they will be doing in Q&A, and they will be doing not a haunted lantern tour, but a lantern tour of all of their historic buildings down there. And long story short, I've definitely experienced some things down there. I have done a couple of overnights in the cabin that I was lucky enough to be allowed to do with some special groups over the years. And when you've got a door that's nailed shut and you still hear footprints running up and down the staircase and nobody can get up there, that's a little concerning. It's during the productions itself, we've had a black dog show up during the production and walk down. The wind's picked up in areas down there when the trees aren't moving. I've had some things. I think I have either been pushed or fallen off the stairs down there once or twice. And, again, I try to find some kind of reasonable explanation for most things, but, you don't have to look too far, sometimes to experience something. And I think some areas attract more activity than others. Almost to the point that if you're in those areas a lot and you live there, or maybe it's somewhere you visit a lot, as in the cases with rugby for me, you kind of become immune after a while. It's almost like you just don't even register. If you're going into a brand new area to check out some things, you might be like extra alert and kind of, hoping for, sounds or, equipment to go off or whatever. But yeah, it's wild what we get accustomed to after a while, Have any of our guests that are tuned in right now, have y'all had, if you've had any personal experiences, can you just kind of virtually raise your hand and chime in that you have? I know a lot of, there are a lot of people. There are some things. You should absolutely, James. And I know there are some opportunities with the cave and some other areas down there that allow public investigations now. I am a big believer in going through the right channels to do things.
Yes.
I definitely grew up in a very heightened era of people investigating abandoned places and things like that were not necessarily above board. And I can give you 1,000 reasons why that's a bad idea. First of all, you might end up at the wrong end of somebody's firearm that way real quick if you're out wandering.
Especially in Tennessee.
Absolutely. And you just don't, there are a lot of physical dangers sometimes in locations. You could step in a hole and break an ankle. You could run into a building with a lot of asbestos. There's a lot of good reasons to play it safe and do things the right way. That's not me being an old fuddy-duddy, I assure you. Anybody who knows me would definitely laugh about that, because I'm probably one of the most adventurous people I know. It's not about fear for me. It's about I want to wake up tomorrow and keep doing what I'm doing. So
exactly.
But yeah, there are, if y'all are truly interested in Tennessee history, and particularly as haunted tourism and haunted history relates to our area of the South, feel free to find me on social media and reach out. I'm pretty easy to talk to, as Miranda can attest to. I'll be down at the festival, keeping our production running smoothly for 5 weeks in Adams soon. So, please come out and see our shows down there. there is a true, I mean, you can travel all over and investigate a lot of different places. I've been lucky enough to go to the Stanley Hotel. I'm trying to think of some of the coolest places I've visited that are kind of haunted tourism wise.
Mhm.
Everywhere in Edinburgh, Scotland, literally everywhere. The catacomb tours, Town Square, where they did a lot of the witch hangings, and
Mhm.
some truly terrible history associated with those cases. Um, Salem, Massachusetts. Uh, there's there are a lot of places you can check
Mhm.
out, and I actually try to work that into any trip I take, no matter where I go.
Yes.
I always, my husband just knows that's what he signed up for, and he's not particularly a fan, but I can drag him to the historical haunts without much trouble. He's not going to do an overnight paranormal investigation with me anywhere. I don't care if it's the White House or, you know, headquarters for his favorite gaming company. It's not happening. But yeah, have fun with it. Be safe out there. Dig into the stories behind it,
Mhm.
because honestly, like, it's always exciting if you've got a lot of fancy or not so fancy equipment that you like to take out to enhance your experience.
Mhm.
And we all like that adrenaline rush when something's happening that you can pick up on something. But um, you know. I have learned so much by just being alone for hours wandering
Yes.
a bunch of old gravestones. I can't even tell you.
Yep.
It's the quietest people make the loudest story sometimes.
Amen. That is so true. And you really kind of hit the nail on the head there talking about that with the staying above board with that, because that's one of the things that we've been working with and are honored to have our partnership with rugby, because they were having a lot of essentially unsanctioned investigations that were going on at that time. And so it's really cool to have a place that has as much activity and as much history as rugby has, to be able to offer that now, because we have so many opportunities that people can do rather than sneaking in and trying to investigate this essentially living village.
Yeah,
You can either get like just kind of just a taste of it with the lantern tour. You can have the immersive experience with the guided ghost hunt, or you can actually do a private paranormal investigation. It's really something for everyone, that you wouldn't get if you were trying to just sort of sneak in and essentially run the risk of getting ran off by the cops.
yeah. I've gone sideways, y'all. I'm not sure if Earl Kate's involved in that. Sometimes technical difficulties do happen when I'm discussing the Bell Witch. It's not the first time, won't be the last. So, um,
Absolutely. Now, you did mention also that haunted history here with East Tennessee and
yeah,
everything. Let's talk just a little bit, because we were talking a little bit beforehand. What's some of your thoughts and theories on why we have so much haunted history here in Tennessee?
I think, you know, historically speaking, Tennessee is she sure did, Pat. Um, Tennessee is a such a it's such a polarized location. In that respect, we very much are the center of the country. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of you can't walk 5 feet without finding a Civil War related, museum or tour or some kind of information in this area. But we had so many folks from the British Isles, from Scotland, from Ireland, from England, that were shipped over here or came on their own uh, before we were even a nation. And a lot of them, because they were familiar with a certain kind of living that's very, tied to the mountains, and it's very similar. If you go back far enough, there's actually, and I can't cite this because I don't have the source material right in front of me, so I apologize for that. But if you Google it, Google can tell you some things. You know, our mountains in the Appalachian Range actually are part of the mountains that are in the Highlands in Scotland. They are very old. So
Yeah.
if you believe in ancestral kind of memories, maybe that attributes to some of it, and combine that with a lot of the indigenous people who had been here for, thousands of years before us. There is just a real depth of superstition
Yep.
and tradition that go along with all of that culture. And it's been Tennessee has I am a seventh generation Tennessean, so this place is very near and dear to my heart, and I definitely I take a lot of pride, and I take it fairly seriously on some levels. But I also understand that for all of our dark history involved in this state, there's also a lot of really important history here, especially in relation to women's rights and the
Yeah.
civil rights movement of the 60s. Women got the right to vote because of Tennessee during suffrage. And we continue to take care of each other. And I had my family that's from Burns. We lost a lot of people in that community during the Spanish flu epidemic in the early 1900s. Out of an
Yeah.
entire household there, I think my great grandfather and his father may have been a couple of the only ones that survived. Both of their wives
Wow.
died during that epidemic. And it's those communities that continue to rebuild and to flourish, and through the Great Depression and how it affected the South. A lot of folks moved up north for a while to follow the steel jobs in Michigan and things, including some of the people in my family. You've got there is such a deep connection to community here, and it always has been. And I don't care if you're talking 300 years ago, 200 years ago, 5 minutes ago. The community of this area is something that is it's as deep as the hollers that run through
That's
Tennessee.
right.
And for all of our disagreements at times and our struggles in this state, at the end of the day, all of these communities have survived because they take care of each other.
Yeah.
And you may not have everything, but this person over here had a hog during a time
Mhm.
everybody needed a little bit of meat for their beans. This person had a
Yeah.
good corn haul. This person, had enough dairy cows to provide. People had enough chickens, to share eggs and things like that. It wasn't. People didn't get by because they were guarding their resources. They very much were willing to collaborate with each other and share those, so that that everybody in their community, could survive.
Yeah, I mean, we still see that today, just even in my neck of the woods here, where you have an overabundance in your garden, and it's like you're taking a basket to the neighbors of your extra cucumbers and beans and that sort of thing. So it's very common, especially
Yeah,
even today. And even though we've got such an influx, at least in our area, of people coming from other areas, it's one of the comments that we constantly get from the new people who are coming in, that it's just everyone is so welcoming and treat you just like you're one of their own, or like
I,
you've been here all their life.
And on that note, if any of y'all want to drop off a bushel of anything from your garden at any point on my front porch, I may not get back to you directly, as my papa would say, but I will bring you some biscuits or cornbread or a preacher's cake or something a little bit down the road.
Yep, yep. Because that's what you're supposed to do too. Where with you're not supposed to return that basket empty or that container empty. You return it with something else. Because if you don't, superstition says that you'll not get brought food anymore.
Absolutely. James, I'm seeing your comment there about the mountains in West Virginia, and I can definitely commiserate with you there. And if something's out there yelling your name in the fence line or tree line, just go back in your house and mind your business. That's all I have to say about that.
Well, we are getting close here to the top of the hour, so I'm going to pull up the website again, and please, Belle, just remind everybody about all the different things that they can do to get involved with the Bell Witch Festival and with anything else that you're doing in the upcoming months for spooky season.
Absolutely. For spooky season right here in Middle Tennessee anyway, I'm kicking off this Saturday at Historic Collinsville for Pat's presentation in the Lantern Tour, because I have not been there myself, and they've got a lot of buildings from the 1800s that I'm super excited to check out. And it's not a bad little jaunt from Nashville for me.
And what is it called?
It's called Historic Collinsville in Clarksville, Tennessee. For us in Adams, which is where I'm going to be with the rest of my production crew and our wonderful actors and community down there. From Community Spirit is the name of our organization that puts on the festival every year. We will be kicking off the Bell Witch Fall Festival on September 22nd. That afternoon is a free show for the community called Red River Tales. You can find information on all three of those shows: Red River Tales, Smoke, the Ballad of the Night Riders, and Spirit. And tickets are live already, and we are selling like hotcakes. Spirit does and Smoke both typically have a sellout pretty early on. So if y'all are interested in coming out and spending an evening with us here to celebrate fall, please go onto the website and get your tickets as soon as you can. You are not going to be disappointed. It's a really authentic. I know that word gets thrown around a lot, but it really is. I mean, it is. It's still very similar in feel to how it's felt down in that part of the Tennessee for a long time. I mean, I've been going down to Adams since I was a kid, and it hasn't changed a whole lot in the last 50 years, I can tell you. But we've got, our original musical by David Alford, Smoke, the Ballad of the Night Riders, features a lot of great bluegrass tunes. It is about the tobacco wars that took place, which is a truly interesting piece of local history for where we're at. And then also Spirit will be starting on, I believe our first date for that is in
17th?
The 17th. Yeah, it'll be the last 2 weekends of October, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday night. And of course, that is the story of the haunting of the Bell Witch. And we've got some great folks in the cast for that this year. You're going to see a little bit more community storytelling in the way that's being presented this year than last year. It always, it's the same story, but it always has, a little bit of a different direction depending on who we've got at the helm. And, we like to maintain the integrity, but also, give you a little bit something to look forward to every year, a little bit of a surprise. And there's such a vast pool of information and experiences there to pull from. for that show. So we hope y'all will come down and join us. If you see me out roaming around the grounds of the old Bell School, where our pavilion, K Bagby Pavilion is, for the shows, please stop me and say hello, and run real fast before I start talking, or you might miss the show.
And Pat has put the link to the event there for his event there in the it looks like it's a Facebook page there,
Yep.
in the comments section. So guys, definitely go check these out, because I know everyone puts a lot of work into these events, especially getting ready here for spooky season, and
Yeah.
it's
A lot.
not
It's
easy.
rehearsal for months. I mean, it is really it's really an undertaking, and we're very proud to put that on for y'all. So
Yeah, and thank you, Pat. Thank you for sharing that. And yeah, thank you all so much for your questions, your comments, for tuning in.
thanks,
We've got
Daryl.
Yeah, and we've got links over there. I've shared those throughout. We've also got links in the show notes. And I definitely, as Belle said, if you have any questions or would like to reach out to her, I highly recommend that, because like I said, we sat and talked up until the morning hours when we met. And so I'm looking forward to growing this connection with you, Belle.
Me
And
too. I'm looking forward to coming down to the historic Scott County Jail next time
yes.
on that side. So
Yes, we'll have to do an
you will probably
investigation.
be hearing from me in November once I recover from the festival.
That sounds good, because that's gonna about be my recovery time as well. So
Absolutely.
so
Thanks so much,
definitely.
y'all. It's been a real pleasure to talk to y'all all. Thanks for your comments and your questions. And be safe out there, and happy spooky season. Enjoy your Friday the 13th tomorrow.
I was just about to say Friday the 13th coming right up. So yeah, so thank you. If you'll hang out a few minutes,
Yep.
I'm gonna end the show and I will
Okay.
talk to you shortly.
All righty. Thanks.
Okay, thanks, Belle. All right. Thank you guys so much for your questions, your comments, for joining us on the show tonight. And like I said, for bearing with me during my absence the last little bit. I'm hoping to catch up on my emails and my messages here over the next couple days. Going into both Christy and I have been working both day and evening shift, and in some cases day and night shift with investigations and stuff. So thank you all for your patience, and again, getting ready for Ghost Biker Exploration Season 7, which will be airing here in just a few weeks. We'll be doing that live, and so next week, definitely, we will be back with two great shows. One at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, the Jailhouse Informant. We're actually going to be having a very special show that I'm super excited about. We're going to be having Captain Tom from the Lake Lanier Charter Company, and they are doing some amazing charter trips here during the month of October for spooky season on none other than Lake Lanier, which is extremely haunted and extremely historic. So we're going to have Captain Tom on during that 7 o'clock hour next week. And then at 9 p.m. Eastern here on the Ghost Biker Explorations Shop Talk Live, Ghost Biker Garage, we're going to be having Josh Purvis on from I mean, everyone knows him from Searchers as well as Beacon, his new streaming platform. So we're going to have him on talking about that. Again, that way you all can find out more about that. If you're not subscribed to Beacon TV, you're definitely going to want to do that. So that's going to be coming up. Also, be on the lookout for our listing. We're going to be posting those dates for all of the different tours that we have on that. So stay tuned for that. Also, we're going to be sharing more evidence from the historic Scott County Jail as well as historic Rugby. We did share some pieces last week as well as through the week as well. So anyways, I hope everyone has a wonderful week, and we will be seeing you all very soon. If I don't see you before next week's shows, we will definitely see you then on Thursday night. So take care, everyone, and have a great week.